We have started this particular point that allocating the resources. Okay, why resources are required to be allocated, that we are going to discuss, and our discussion was there in the last lecture also, that we have gone through this resource allocation definition, process of assigning and scheduling available resources, etc., in an effective and economical manner. This particular part we have completed time constraint and resource constraint. Okay, so resources should not be idle, and if manpower is there, that manpower should not be idle, or if machine is there, machine should not be idle. Always in continuation, it requires some work so that revenue can be generated and properly utilization of the particular resources can be possible. So that is the part. Expediting the project, critical path method. What is crushing? We have studied. Crushing is nothing but reducing the project days, reducing the duration of the project, but at the same time, we have to make the balance between increased cost. So that particular example we have gone through. Then this particular formula you are knowing, crush cost minus normal cost divided by crush time minus normal time, so that we can find out the slope. Okay, so why these things are repeated here once again? Because whatever your further part is there, that further part is depending upon that particular point only. That's why I'm telling, if you understood the network drawing particular, then it is very good. If you are able to draw the network, then you have to find the proper critical path. If you find the critical path, you can find out the total duration, and based on that, further parts are there. Okay, so that's why this particular part is there. So normally this is a crushing project. Already we have gone through this such type of example, how that cost is reduced. This is the different PPT. So another example may be there. Okay, so right now we are talking about here task duration, that is activity duration and time estimate. Okay, so this particular part is important during the, we can call it the scheduling or allocation. Okay, so task duration are probabilistic, that use time estimate. So in rushing of the project, we have gone through three time conditions: optimistic, mostly likely, and pessimistic actions, and normal resources loading. Is it right? So that particular part is required to recall here once again. Okay, then our point starts from this particular point in fast tracking side, or uh, we can call it as it is a part of the allocation. In addition, in addition to crashing a project, in order to expedite the project may also have fast track. Okay, so what do you mean by fast tracker? So we can find out the progress of the project in very we can call it as the fast way. Okay, so fast track, we are knowing it is not the company who sells the watch or other things, but fast tracking means project can be tracked very effective manner, where it is lagging, how we can take the control over this particular project, etc. The terms refer to, this is generally for we can call it as a construction industry. Okay, the terms refer to an expediting technique in which the design and planning phase of the project are not actually completed before building phase is started. Yeah, so this is the, we can call it as the used primarily in construction industry. So we are talking about that only. So we have started some building side and design and planning phase is not actually completed. Okay. Rather, usually design and plan are finished before the building is started. So that is the required your what are the plan and design things are there that should be finished before actual work should be start. So letting the overlap reduces project duration. In fact, design and planning are incomplete does not result in significant amount of rework and changes ordered to during the building phases. This is the one example they have given. Actually, the construction project already we have taken same example house building. First, we have to go for designing and planning. We should prepare our design. We should make our plans ready. We should check the availability of resources, different resources, where these resources can be possible, this can be manageable, how much manpower is required, how much total expenditure estimate may be there. So everything should be we must say it should be ready before actually building phase we should start. Building phase means actually that what are the foundation work or building construction we should start. So that design and planning should be ready. Otherwise what happens if we start our particular building phase early before that designing or planning, sometime we require to make the changes. Okay, and that particular changes required some time, they require some cost. Okay, so regarding cost, we have just gone through that crashing of the project, how we can reduce the days and increase the cost. But what about we can call it as a time? What about resources? Okay, so for that particular purpose, for most of the time resources purpose, means suppose in day-to-day life we are knowing that one contractor may take the construction, start the construction of one house complete near about 60% and he immediately starts he take another contract and he started working on that side, and whatever the first contract is there for that he's just sending one or two persons go and do that, go and do that, like this, and that work is become what are the first contracting things are there, first work is there, it becomes little bit delayed. So we are knowing that thing. Is it right? So to avoid such thing, that planning and designing with resources point of view is also important. Okay, resources, it may contain materials, it may contain equipments, it may contain manpower, it may contain the other required budgetary things also. So money is also one of the resources. So that budgetary things are also we can call it as the resources. Equipments, what are the equipments required for constructing the project? Manpower, materials, cement, sand, water. These are also called the resources. Money also called resources. So everything, whether it is ready or not, according to design and plan, that we have to check. Okay. So this is the particular part related to this. Then resource loading. So once the resource, whatever these particular parts are there, resource allocation, resource loading, resource smoothing, resource leveling. These are we can call it as the moving simultaneously with each other. And based on that, examples are also there in your syllabus. So we'll try to take at least one example of each particular type at online site. When we will join in class, we will take more examples related to this. Resource loading refers to amount of specific resources that are scheduled for use on specific activities or project at a specific times. Here the important part is that specific activities or specific time. Okay, so what it indicates that so if you are going for that construction of house and slab work is there, so for slab work you require that mixing machine. You're right, that mixing machine is there which can mix water, sand, cement, and that particular things are ready for the slab purpose. Is it right? That means if I take the example of mixing machine as a resources. Then that particular mixing machine I want for specific activity. That mixing machine is required for slabbing purpose. It is not required during wall construction or other work. Is it right? It is required for that particular activity, that is slab. And at a specific time when other parts are get completed, that means foundation is get completed, column and beam sides completed, so wall construction get completed, other parts are get completed, and when I want to go for slabbing, slab formation, then I want that particular machine. Okay, so that is the at that time only I will call that particular machine. So at the initial, at the ground leveling or at the time of foundation work, if I put that the mixing machine beside to that worker, that ground leveling or that foundation worker, that machine doesn't have any use at that particular time. Okay, but that slabbing mixing machine is required at the time of the slabbing only. So this particular point or this particular example refers to resource loading. So what is that resource loading? Is there resource loading? Already the definition is in front of you. That definition tells that resource loading refers to the amount of specific resources. So amount of specific resources means that mixing machine, what are this specific resources there of that specific machine is there, mixing machine. What is the cost or what is the amount? What is the, we can call it as the rate of that particular machine? That should be scheduled. So when you are making scheduling of the project, that use of that particular machine should be scheduled at the time of slabbing only. It should not be scheduled at the time of foundation work or other work. Or rather, house is get completed, slabbing is over, and electric work or some finishing painting work is going on in the house, and that time you call that slabbing machine. What is the use of that? Okay, time is passed when electric work and finishing work is going on. At that time, that is what is the specific time is there, specific activity is there, it is yet completed, that time has passed. If that machine is called too early at the time of foundation work, what are the specific activities there, specific time is there, it is not yet came, it is not yet arrived, it is having some delay. So early requirement is also not required. Late requirement or late arrival is also not required there if I am talking about that machine. Give and what is the next point suggest us, gives an understanding of the demand of the project will make of firm's resources. So that is one of the important part. We should understand the demand. What is the demand of that particular part? Okay, so that we can use that firm's resources. Okay, so if demand is not there, and without demand, if we call certain particular project, etc., it is little bit difficult. Okay, it usually takes the form of the list or table. So generally, scheduling part, whatever is there in that table is made. Okay, list is made, and from that we have to properly taking the things. So resource resource allocation is one of the we can call it as one of the tasks in which this resource loading, resource scheduling, resource smoothing, resource leveling, these parts comes. Okay, and these parts we are not thinking these are the different one. These are moving simultaneously with each other. These are the, we can call it as the parallel activities. Okay, so for example, if I go for the resource allocation is the like your resource allocation or resource loading is like your the particular queuing theory problems. So already we have gone through this queuing theory in engineering management 1. So what is we have done there? What is we are doing? The service station is available and there is a queue of the customers. Is it right? That customer come to that particular service station. He will wait in that queue to be served. He will go to the service station, take his services, and after getting the services, he left the queue. Okay, he quit from that queue. So similarly, resource allocation or resource loading is, we can call it as the queuing. It is similar to queuing here. Rather, whatever humans are there in the person or in the queue, or persons are there in the queue, instead of that, here we can call it as the task or machines are in the queue. Okay, so here that machines are in the queue, and whatever the service station is there, that service station is nothing but that activity. So for what activity which machine is required, if that machine is get served, first come first serve base, all of you are knowing who is coming at first, that particular person will be served first. So whatever machine is available at first time, it can be used for that particular work. So that is like this. Or man machine, in case of labor also, who the laborers who are present at the first time, they will get immediately work. The labor who joins later to that work, they will get little bit less work. So like this particular point is there, that queuing theory, what are this resource allocation is there. Okay, and here we have to make one point clear to our mind, that equipment should not be remain in queue, and whatever the service station or whatever the activities are there, that activity should not be remain empty. That particular balance we have to take here. Otherwise what happens, sometimes what happens, there is a too much demand for one of the equipment. Is it right? Too much demand for one of the equipment, and sometimes that equipment is ready to provide his service, but there is no demand for that equipment. So we can call it as ideal time for that equipment. So last time also I have given the example of JCB. JCB is required for construction work, but at what point it requires? So it requires at the foundation work, or it requires at the leveling work. So leveling work, definitely that JCB is required. That time it is the having the first we can call as the prime condition, that JCB is required for ground leveling work. Is it right? So at that particular time, that JCB should be available. If the leveling work is over and JCB's task is get completed, immediately that JCB should be shifted to another project, another work, where that particular work requires the JCB. So when you allocate the JCB, you should require to provide resource one or project one, project two properly, so that that JCB ideal time will be reduced. Same thing is about human beings. Suppose 10 workers are with you, then for first day only 5 workers are required, but after 10 days next 5 workers are required. So whether for that next 10 days you are giving salary to remaining 5 workers by not doing the work, so that should not be there. So that particular balance we have to keep in between this loading and allocation and smoothing. Or smoothing also, that we should use minimum workers at each activity, and whatever the activities are there, it should be fulfilled. So regarding the machines, regarding the humans, this particular things of resource allocation and loading is one of the important part, important task rather, we can say that. Okay. So this is the one example is there. So this is shown in the Gantt chart. So we'll not go by this way, by this way that Gantt chart is there. So rather we'll go by another way. Okay. Then resource leveling. So this is the one of the another we can call it the related part to this particular point. Less hands-on management is required. So what leveling indicate, less hands-on management is required. May be able to use just-in-time inventory. Whatever the required it should be reached to that particular project immediately within a short times. This is the one of the, we can call it as the type of inventory, just in time. What are your daily resources required, at case of material, manpower, etc. Every morning that much should be available, so that is called just in time. If you require today 100 bags of cement, then only 100 bags of cement should be ready today. Okay, that should be available. For tomorrow, how much is required? Tomorrow's stock you don't keep today. So tomorrow morning, whatever the required cement bags are there, that will be available to you. Okay. So this particular method is used by Japanese to reduce the inventory cost. Okay, so whatever our money is engaged by keeping the inventories uh, and other things for that. So to reduce that inventory cost, this method was used. Improves morale. So whatever today required things are there, today's requirement that is fulfilled. So no lagging or no such situation may be there. That's why whatever the working morale is there, it is improved. Fewer personnel problems. As today I require only 5 workers, so I call only 5 workers. Tomorrow, if I require 10 workers, I will call 10 workers. So, as today 5 workers are there, whatever today's problems are there, these are related to only 5 personnel problems. If unnecessary, I call more workers, then interpersonal problems may be started. Is it right? There may be problem between worker to worker or others. That thing may be there. When an activity has slack, we cannot move that activity shift to resource uses. So activity particular slack is there, that means when that activity is not doing properly. Okay, so slack is there, that activity is a little bit running behind the time, etc. Then we cannot move that activity to shift the resource. If suppose foundation work is going on and there is slabbing work, we cannot introduce there. If there is a late of the founder, late for the foundation work. So like this, that activity slag and we can call as the okay. So ahead and slack. So ahead to the time schedule is no problem, but if it is slacking, then there is a problem. So that is the one of the part is the important one. Then we cannot move that activity to shift the resource switches. So today, according to your scheduling point, you told that suppose you started the work on 1st of the May and you have made the proper schedule, and you told that mixing machine person that I want this mixing machine on suppose 10th of the July. So from 1st April or 1st May to 10th of July, you had a plan that I will complete foundation work, I will complete column and beam work, and 10th July I will start the slab work. And that's why you call that particular mixing machine on 10th of the July. But due to slagging, due to some delay in another work, if your slabbing work is shifted from 10 to 15 July, is it right? So for that 5 days delay, you cannot move other activities or you cannot start the your slabbing work on 10 July itself, because that slabbing work, whatever the necessary things are there, it is not yet completed on the 10th of the July. It should be completed on 15th of the July. So that's why we are saying here that we cannot move the activities to shift the resource. The resource is available, so that's why we cannot start the activity at this point. Okay, we cannot shift that activity. So that is the meaning of that. We cannot move the activity. We cannot early start the activity, when that activity should start, when that previous activity should be finished. May also be possible to after sequence of the activities to levelize the resources. Okay, so sequence of activities, that sequence we have to decide which is the early sequence, which is the next sequence, etc. And all the activities should be required to be put on the level, one of the proper leveling. Each activity should be gone like a smooth, we can call it as the uh, smooth way. Small projects can be levelized by hand. So here leveling means not with that you are thinking ground leveling and other things. Here leveling means we can call as the activity leveling. Small project activity can be levelized by with the help of pen and paper, that is written by hand, or software can be levelized resources for large project where the many resources are there. There we can use the different softwares. Large projects with multiple resources are very complex to levelize. Those big projects are there, always you are finding that there is delay for big projects because of this particular such leveling and availability of resources. This particular point. Okay, so this particular, by looking at this particular point, the what is the leveling indicate? Okay, so leveling doesn't change the duration of the project. Leveling just we can call the shifting the activities. Okay, rather shifting the activities means you can do this particular part early and this part later. But in active schedule, part A is initial and part B is later. But due to some we can call it delay, etc., we can start part B early and part A little bit late. So that shifting of activity can be little bit possible. Okay, and here we cannot not in position to change the duration of the project. So once when you completed that network diagram, you found something duration of the project, and that total duration is not possible to change. Okay, so total duration we have calculated on the based on the critical activities on the critical path. Okay, so what is the critical path duration is there, that we can call it as the largest duration, largest path, and that is the that gives the total project duration. So that particular project duration of critical activities we cannot change. Then what are the other activities are there apart from the critical activities? These are called non-critical activities, and that non-critical activities we can shift little bit here and there. Okay, so that the proper resource allocations, proper resource leveling, each and every resource can be utilized. Proper resource leveling can be possible. Allocation can be possible. Okay. So right now